welcome to the channel. I'm Summer. Today's video, we are doing a blow dry tutorial on a previous haircut, the fairy cut. This is a very heavily layered look, and I'm gonna be doing a side-by-side comparison for you guys. So one side of the head, I'm gonna be blowing out with the traditional blow dryer and round brush, the other side with a blowout brush, so you guys can find out all the ways to do this, whether you work in salon or you're doing it at home on yourself. I'm gonna be walking you through step by step how to get all the shape and movement that this cut brings. With that being said, let's get started. All right, so we are gonna create this lovely blow dry today for this lovely textured fairy haircut. These names kill me, but we are gonna first start off with product prep. Product prep is very important for this type of haircut as there is a lot of layers, so we have a lot of shape that we need to create. This cut is not necessarily the best cut for somebody who wants like a really smooth, sleek, straight look. We wanna be able to get lots of layers and get lots of movement. So we're gonna apply our product. So she has a little bit medium of density. I'm gonna be applying volume products. If you're somebody with really, really coarse hair, you might not need as many volume products as I'm doing, but one of them you definitely will. So for very fine, like stick straight hair types like myself, you're gonna wanna first apply a root lifter to help give you more body all through the tops of your head. So I'm just go in, I simply take my section, I spray it on. It's super easy. You can apply as little or as much as you want. It's all personal preference. You could use this in just set areas like the crown and the sides, or if you're like me, I like applying it everywhere. So I'm gonna do that first. This brand is Moroccan Oil. It is the root lifter by far that is my absolute favorite. I always go back to it. It gives good body without being like super product feeling, which is oftentimes the downfall of a volume product. So I always go back to this one. If you want a little bit more affordable option, Paul Mitchell has a nice one that's liquid, but it doesn't leave a heavy product feel and it gives ample body and it is at a little bit more lower price point. So you could opt to use either a volume mousse for your mids and ends, depending on your hair type, or you could opt to use a blowout cream that has like more shape and like flexibility to it as far as the purpose of it. So this one is IGK, their Beach Club. It is their bouncy blowout cream. You also get heat protection with this, which is nice. This is my choice for fine hair types. You could also use a mousse, the Moroccan Oil mousse if you want, but you could even pair them both together. But usually you're fine with just one. So today I'm gonna use the IGK Beach Club. And if you're somebody with more coarse, thicker hair, Unite's Blow and Set is a good option. This is fine for fine hair as well, but I like the added little bit of volume that the IGK gives, and you don't need a ton. We've got just a little, you know, maybe 2 pea size, and we're just gonna work that all through the hair. If you have stick straight hair, you definitely want to use something like this because you're just going to have a harder time keeping the bend through the hair. It's more likely to fall flat on you faster. This haircut is really fun, but it is hard on like fine straight hair types. It's better if you have like a little bit of natural wave to your hair. So you'll work that all through the hair, and once that's in, we're just going to comb everything through. So if you're curious how this cut was done, I did do this as a haircut tutorial that I will leave linked below for you to check out if you're curious to see how we got the shape. But you always want to comb through all your products, make sure it's evenly spread through the hair. So with this blow dry today, I am going to be doing sort of a comparison. One side of the head, we're going to be doing it with a traditional blow dryer and round brush, as I would do it on a client in salon, the stylist version. And the other side, I'm going to be using a blowout brush for those of you who are at home, or maybe even if you are a stylist and you just have a hard time with the 2 devices. I'm going to show you a side-by-side comparison. So we show you my stylist professional version, but we can also achieve that at home as well with a blowout brush just as well. So let me grab my tools. Okay, so I've got my tools. This is the SRI Dry Q that I'm using for my traditional dryer. We've got a nice wide nozzle with it. It's a magnetic attachment. It goes on very well, and it folds. It's a really cute dryer actually, and it's super, super lightweight. And then for our blowout brush, I'm gonna be using from the brand Sutra. This is their eye bob. This, you can remove this too. They have like multiple, they've got different heads you can put on. So it's a versatile tool, but this is their 2-inch blowout brush, which I like for layered haircuts like this. So you are still gonna wanna use a traditional dryer. The nice thing actually about the Sutra is you could remove this head to rough dry here, but you wanna start off with a nice rough dry, just slightly getting the moisture out of the hair. You don't want the hair to be like soaking wet, but you also don't want it to be too dry that you can no longer achieve the shape that we need to. So she actually is already a little bit more dry than I thought, so I'm barely gonna blow dry. I should say barely rough dry. So we are gonna create our bang shape first, because bangs, I think it's best to dry them first. If you let them get too dry, you're gonna have to go back and re-spritz them down wet. So you could, it's fine, but I do like to blow dry them first. And then you can always reshape them afterwards a little bit. So I'm just gonna comb back some of this hair. And again, this is a middle part, so one side's gonna be with the blowout brush, one side with my traditional, you know, blow dryer and separate round brush. So these bangs are a sort of a full bang, kind of like bottlenecky. They definitely come up a little bit shorter in the center and then they flow out. So it might be a little difficult at first to blow dry these with 2 separate tools, but we'll see how it goes. So I can never think of what side is what. This left side I'm gonna be doing with a round brush and blowout brush. So the nice perk with a standard blowout brush, a standard dryer and round brush is you can go down in size. So blowout brush, you typically just have one size. Some of them you have more brush head options. Some of them come with like a little tiny small one, but this is just our normal one size. Or with the round brush, we can go down a size for our shorter bangs. So I'm gonna come in and I like to, with them just parted here at the middle, I take and place my brush in, and I'm just gonna roll these in the brush, and I'm directing it slightly across the face. So I'm blow drying them almost vertically rather than down and horizontal, because I want them to swoop out. So the smaller the brush, we're gonna create a little bit more bend and shape with them, where if I use that larger brush, it was gonna flatten them out a little bit more. So if you are somebody who has very fine, very stick straight hair, or if your hair in general has a hard time holding its style, you're better off using a smaller size brush at first, especially in this bang area, because it's gonna fall out anyways. It'll lose its shape a little bit faster. So it's better to do it a little bit maybe tighter and more bouncy with the appearance of it being shorter at first, just because you are gonna get a little bit more longevity out of it. Really shape that. And then I like to turn my dryer off. And I let it just cool down ever so slightly. You can roll it with your hands. You could use a Velcro roller if you want. But we're just gonna let that fall. And that swoops really, really well. It's a big swoop. So like I said, the smaller brush, it creates more bend and shape. And you might feel like, oh, that's too much, but this will like soften up. So I'm gonna blow dry just the bang right behind it too. So I like to sometimes work my bangs in sections, and I'm still gonna use a smaller brush for now. But it's the same idea where we just take it and you're gonna rotate that across the face, rolling that into the brush. Then we're just gonna let that fall out. And then if you ever notice that you have like a split in the hair here, all you need to do is come back into both of this section once it's dry, and just sort of go at it again. And it'll help kind of remove that separation. And I'm still gonna kind of roll it in with my hands. Keep it wrapped up as I let it cool down a little bit. And then just let that fall out. So now let's blow dry on the other side with the blowout brush. I'm gonna do the same things, but again, this is a bigger tool, so we are probably not going to get as much bend with it, but you're gonna work it in a very similar fashion. So you can even see how much volume that lifted off of the scalp. Okay, so I'm gonna come to the other side now, and we're gonna work it, still going across the face. So you'll take it, and you're gonna rotate it the same exact way, just going directly over and across the face. So if I were doing this on my own head, I've got my arms are wrapped around me like this, just rotating it over and across, and you still want to wrap it into place with your brush. So it's the same motions, it's just one tool that you're holding with both of your hands. I'm gonna actually just lightly split this. Try to at least. I need a baby clip. And too, what I like about a lot of the blowout brushes, but this one specifically, this tip never, I feel like it doesn't really ever get too hot. Granted, you can accidentally hit lower, but you can use your other hand to sort of help you rotate the hair through the brush. So once it's dry, I'll turn it off and I will run that through like I did in the round brush to just sort of help it like lightly cool down and push that back. So it still creates some good shape. It just might be like a tiny bit more smooth, let's say. And then let me blow dry this remaining hair down here. And let that fall. So it's definitely a little bit less bouncy in the bang, but you still have a very, very nice swoop. There's nothing wrong with it. So now that the bangs are dry, I can remove this clip. We are gonna move into the back. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm just gonna blow dry one side at a time. So I'm gonna start with my stylist side first, and then we'll do the blowout brush side. So the left side is the stylist side. So we're just gonna section it off. I like to just work in basically, I clip all this up and I'll leave out my section at a time for drying. And I like to start bottom and just work my way up. So I am using, this is the Cricut 390 brush. This is 2.5 inches, I believe, 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. But we're gonna be able to get a lot of shape and bend, and then I might move into a smaller brush in those top layers to really show them off. So all we're gonna do, I want some body, so we're just gonna lift straight up, and we're rolling this hair all the way in the brush. So I wanna make note really quick about brush size. When you want a lot of bounce and bend, the more times that you can wrap the hair, or should I say roll the brush up from the ends to the scalp, the more bend and bounce you're gonna see. The bigger the brush, the less times you're gonna be able to roll it in. So with this one, you can see, got it out, hair's down here, I'm rolling once, twice. I usually like to be able to roll it at least 2 full turns to get enough bounce and shape. So when I go and let this out, you're gonna spiral more. Where let's say with this little one, this would be way too small for this section, but just to show you, we're coming out. I've rolled 1, 2, I'm at like almost 3 full turns. That's fine, but it's gonna take you longer to blow dry the hair with a smaller brush in longer sections. So 2 times to be able to turn it in the brush is gonna be good enough to get you nice shape. So I'm just lifting and I'm rotating that in to get lots of bend through the hair to really dry this section. And I'm gonna work the dryer on the top and bottom of the section so I get nice, even heat distribution. And if you want more volume, you're gonna lift it straight up. If you want it to be less full, let's say, you can just lift it straight out. So I like to, after it's dry, I'll roll it back up into the brush, and I like to hit it with a little bit more heat to really get it to get in that shape. And then all I'm gonna do is we're gonna twist this brush out. So I'm opening it up, I'm gonna twirl, twirl, and let that fall, and this is gonna create a little bit more bend in the hair. So I'll show you that one more time. Perfect. So we're gonna do a lot of that same motion all through the rest of the hair here. And then when I get further into the top, I will show you guys if I need to go down to a smaller brush. And I'll show you too, if you wanna create more bend. So you can opt to blow dry, you know, just going straight up and rolling the hair in the brush where you're always hitting it on one side of the head. You're always rolling under. So what you can also opt to do is come in, place your brush on the top, and you're gonna flip it up and blow dry everything going the opposite direction. So this creates a lot more shape. It's an added layer and a step that is a little hard to do on your own if you're not, you know, a stylist who's used to blow drying hair like this in salon. But it does help to dry the hair on both the top and bottom sections while creating more shape. You can also go side to side with it too. Essentially, the more you rotate the hair in different directions, the more shape you tend to get in the hair. So it just depends on what level of easiness you want. Doing it this way is a little bit more challenging to do on your own at home, hence why we have the blowout brush. So you're essentially trying to create almost like a little, not curl, but a wave with pulling and twisting it out. So I am resectioning this hair off. I don't like to let any hair rest on dry hair below. That is something I like to do. I like to just grab a section at a time so I can get the shape I want without letting other hair rest on dry hair below. So I still with this section, let's count our rolls. We've got 1, 1.5, so a little less bend. So this is where you could opt to go down to a smaller brush size if you want. I probably will in our next section up top after I get this bottom side dry. So that's what you want to keep in mind with a heavily layered haircut like this. Adjusting your brush size to match the section of layer you're drying. So one thing I do want to mention that I feel like a lot of people, when you're drying, it can play a role in how your style comes out. A lot of times you need to continue to put heat on the hair even technically after it's dry to really get the shape that you want. So even though you're drying wet to dry hair, you still need to kind of work the shape a little bit more once it's dry. It's sort of like giving it a little like extra kick. So once the hair is dry, don't just immediately move on to the next section. Still work the heat on it to really get more shape and more bend. You want to definitely make sure you're using a heat protectant in your hair because of this. So your leave-in conditioner needs to have a heat protectant and one of your styling products. So like that IGK has a heat protectant. That's why I like it. So keep that in mind. So we're gonna hold this in place. I'm gonna implement my cool shot because I want a lot more volume up here. I want to preserve a little bit more of this bend and shape. And we're going to rotate that out still. So I've got this side section I need to dry, and then I'm going to use a smaller brush in my final top sections. So here at the face, I am going to opt to roll everything back away from the face. I might, in the very front of this section, do some pieces forward, but overall I like rolling back away from the face because you can get it to curve in nicely anyways, and it helps just create a little bit more shape. So we've got a lot of flow going back away from the face to open up. We can curve it in later when we need to. And I've got to go grab my smaller brush really quick. All right, so I've switched down to the Cricut 370 brush. This is one size down from the 390, so just a little bit smaller, that I'm going to use in these top sections to just create a little bit more volume. So I'll show you really quick before I start drying. We've got one turn, two turns. So that's what I mean. We get two full turns now, so we're going to create just a little bit more shape. If you use a bigger brush, it's fine. It's okay. I just like the option to go smaller, and that's the perk of a separate blow dryer and round brush, is that you have more options to customize the size. So I'm still lifting up and rotating, holding that in place and getting it nice and dry. And we're rolling everything back away from the face. This will be our final piece for our blow dry side. So this final piece, I actually am going to dry similar to how I did the bangs, up and across slightly. Also, last tip for the blow dry, the nozzle also, this is something I think people struggle with. They think they have to hold the dryer a set way because of how the nozzle is. All you have to do is rotate the nozzle. So you can adjust it to how you need it to be dead on the hair. So you don't have to like contort your body as much as you think you do. You can simply just rotate the nozzle. This is very easy to move around. Some of them like are really stiff. This can rotate very, very easily. So like this, instead of me turning my arm, I can just turn the nozzle and my position's the same. So if it were the way that a lot of people have it, I'd have to sit here, lift my arm up more than I need to. Instead, just turn it. Look at that body. So last things first, first things last. If you feel like you need to pop up your bang a little bit more, you can come back in with our small brush. You can grab some of that section you were just in and just hit it with heat again if you feel like it flattened out. Let that cool down still a little bit in the brush. And I just kicked it up a little bit. So at this point, what I like to do, I don't like to touch my hair here. I like to let it fully cool down in shape. So I'll just come in with a little bit of a hairspray. This is actually Garnier Fructis, just their Sleek and Shine. I love this hairspray. It's not super stiff. It says it has an ultra strong hold, but it's really light and workable, and it gives a lot of shine, and it protects against humidity. So I will just come in and just lightly spritz, and I let it sit. I don't touch it for a couple of seconds, and then of course I'd run my hands through it, but we still got half the head to do. So I'm gonna go through on the other side now with our blowout brush. Similar motions, it's just one tool. So let's start at the base here, and we'll get it going. All right, so I'm going to the blowout brush, same steps. So I do use high heat. You're just gonna lift up, and you're still gonna rotate the same way, all through the head. So once it's dry, you can let it sit, let it cool down a little bit. You can rotate it some if you want, but you're gonna pull it out and twist the same way we did with our blowout brush and round brush. So you just let it out and just twist and let it come out. So we still have a lot of shape and bounce there. I'm gonna do that one more time. And you could even do it if you wanted to with the blowout brush still on, if you didn't want to let it quote unquote cool down. But I'm just going to show you with it off because that's how I did the other side. Rotate and pull down. And we're going to move on to the next section. And I like to only let out the hair that I'm going to dry at a time. So like we did with our blowout brush and round brush, you can, and this is a much easier way to do it on your own at home, you can place this on the top and still get your rotation where you're hitting both top and bottom of that section to work that heat through the hair and to get more shape. This is a lot easier to do on your own with a blowout brush versus the separate blow dryer and round brush. I mean, I'm good at it because I've been doing hair for, it'll be 18 years coming up here, you know, but it is hard to do that on your own. So that is where I like a blowout brush, so you can really work at both sides of the hair to get a lot of that shape and movement easier than the separate blow dryer and round brush. Let that cool down a little bit. And we're gonna twist and pull out of place. So we're gonna come in and just continue those same motions. I'm gonna come up to this back one before I move into my sides. And again, you can use this tip to rotate the brush through your hair to help assist. So the only thing I'll say about a blow-up brush, they do get insanely hot, like insanely hot. So that is something to be careful with. You can lower the heat on a lot of them, but it really more so is just it lowers the speed. So that's the only downfall. That's my main downfall I don't like about them. Obviously you don't have maybe as much versatility with a blowout brush as far as like customizing the brush size. But they're very easy, but they do get very hot. So we're gonna still blow dry the rest of this front the exact same way I did the other hair, and then we'll compare. And then again, if you feel like there is separation there from the back section of your front bang, you can just again grab this hair, same as we did with the round brush and blow dryer, and just reshape this some. And the blow up brushes, they do have a cool setting. That's what this really loud one is. So you can still always implement that if you want. And again, we're just gonna spritz this down, a little hairspray, and then I'm gonna fluff my hands through it and we'll see what they're looking like. All right, so I wanted to show you her actually before I run my hands through it and do some final like texture spray and whatnot. So we have this right side is the blow dry brush side. The left side is the salon version. So here we have the salon version. You can see a lot of more kind of bend through these front layers, and the backs actually look kind of quite similar to me personally. I feel like if anything, you have a little bit more volume right here from the blowout brush before running our hands through it. And then coming into the sides with the blowout brush, I feel like there is a little less kind of swooping everywhere. It's not bad, it's definitely there, but I feel like through the blow dry side, you have just a tiny bit more, and we'll see what it does now when we run our hands through it. So let me give you one more look. This is blowout brush side from a side view, and this is blow dryer and round brush from a side view, and then this is our back. So let's fluff through now, getting to the fun part. So I like to just use my fingers. You could flip your head upside down, but I'm not gonna do that here because it's a mannequin, and we're just gonna run our hands through the hair everywhere. I'm gonna sort of act like this isn't two separate blow dries. Obviously we're split down the middle here some, so that plays a factor. Got a lot of shape though with the cut. Not bad on both sides actually for a comparison. I feel like maybe, oddly enough, I feel like we have more volume slightly from the blow-up brush side. We have more shape through the layers down here, and it's a little smoother here, but through this top, I feel like we're popping up a little bit more. All right, final thing is you can always opt to add a little bit of a texture spray or paste. This is a texture spray. This is Sexy Hair's High Tide. I like this. It's not like too stiff. It's meant to be more as like a finishing spray. You could also opt to make this like a little less full on the sides. I wanted to just really like get a good comparison with the standard blow dryer and round brush and blowout brush. So you could like smooth this out a little bit more and focus on just creating volume through the top. So it's personal preference. If you want to add more texture to sort of like mess it up, you could again flip the head upside down, or you're just gonna lift in sections and spray your texture spray into the hair. This just gives it a little bit like more grit, and you can kind of create that messy feel. If you wanted to opt to do this just on like a day 2, you can. But if you want to create a little bit more like craziness everywhere, a texture spray is great to do that, and you would just spray it through. And then I like to just kind of come in, and it's like the less precise you do it, the better. This haircut is meant to look a little like kind of not disheveled and stuff, but you want a lot of texture and movement with this style of haircut with all the layers. So the more you mess it up with texture spray or a paste, the better. I also feel like this haircut is a haircut that looks great on a day 2, day 3. It's almost like day 1 is just like I had to do my hair, and then you get to play off of it more further into your week. But the texture spray is personal, but we have a ton of texture. So I'm gonna do one final spin to show you guys what it looks like everywhere afterwards. And I can't wait to hear if you like the blowout brush or the round brush better, and we'll get you guys out of here. All right, guys, here is our final look of our blow dry comparison. Again, we did one side with a standard blow dryer and round brush, as I would do in the salon, and then the other side we did with a blowout brush. So 1 tool versus 2. I can't wait to hear what you guys think in the comments, which version you like best, or if you think that there's not even that big of a difference. So be sure to let me know. We still have tons of movement either way, showing off all the layers that this cut brings. If you want to go ahead and see the tutorial of this haircut, you can find that linked below in the description, as well as all the products and tools that I use. You can also check it out right here in this end card. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.